You ready to A24? I'm ready to A24. So let's do this shit in A24. After Yang is brought to us by director Kogonada and stars Colin Farrell, Jodie Turner-Smith, and Justin H. Min. In the near future, a family reckons with questions of love, connection, and loss after their AI helper unexpectedly breaks down. So I ain't gonna lie, I didn't know shit about this movie, which is kind of the case with a lot of A24 movies. They seem to just kind of come out of nowhere sometimes. And you best believe this is an A24 movie. Now if you know what that means, then you kind of know what to expect here. If you don't, well, get ready. A24 is an independent distributor that is known for putting out, let's say, odd, quirky films. They're kind of like the mainstream art house studio. And I use the term mainstream very lightly. They put out things like Lamb, The Lighthouse. Do you really need any more than that? They're known for putting movies out that are a bit out there, but typically these movies do have a certain level of quality to them. There's usually something about these movies, regardless of how out there they are, that is pretty entertaining. And After Yang is no different. Yes, this is a weird movie on some levels, but it's also a different movie than you expect it to be, especially given how the movie begins. What we got here is a pretty simple story. In the near future, we have this family of 3 that has this robot android named Yang that starts to malfunction and just goes out. So they take him to get him repaired, but they can't seem to do that. Their young daughter has formed quite the connection with Yang, so she is really distraught that they can't get him working again. As the plot progresses, we learn more and more about Yang and what he did when everybody wasn't looking, and maybe a bit more. And that's about it. Now, that is kind of trivializing things a bit, because there's a lot more to this movie, but as far as like the story and the structure go, that's pretty much all you got. The movie heavily deals with loss, human connection, what it means to be human, and how sometimes we don't always know someone the way that we think we do. Now, as with many A24 movies, this movie is not gonna be for a lot of people. It's not because of the story or anything, because honestly, story-wise, this is probably one of the more grounded A24 movies we've had in a while. Once you get past the future part of this story, most of it is fairly grounded in reality. I mean, the things that they show in this future are very believable. The thing that makes this movie difficult is that it is really fucking slow. Like if you took molasses and turned it upside down and watched it as it came out, that's fast compared to this movie. This movie is slow as hell. And admittedly, that slow pace does wear on you at times. This movie was only about an hour and 40 minutes. That's not really that long, but it felt really long. Like if you'd asked me, I would have probably thought this movie was about 2.5 hours long, but no, it's only about an hour and 40 minutes. It also doesn't help that the story that we have here, while it is interesting and there are some revelations later in the film that will get you to thinking, it's stretched out so much over the runtime of this film that it seems really thin. There is in fact some substance here, but it takes quite a while to get to that substance. And I honestly don't know if most people are going to have it in them to make it to the parts of the film that really get the gears to turning. Now, if you do, you're going to end up with a story that is going to ask you some very challenging questions. I don't want to ruin those, but it kind of is worth taking the time to make it through the rest of the movie to get to this part of the film. Now, even though the movie is like really slow, that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. Now, granted, the final third of the film helps a lot because it picks up and gives you a lot of answers and asks you some more questions. But the first 2/3 that are the long part of the film, there's still a lot of interesting stuff in there if you're looking for it. This story doesn't really tell you a lot. You gotta kind of like pick out stuff yourself as you watch it. It's a very active participation style of filmmaking. That, much like the runtime, is not gonna be for everybody. But those of you that are game for that, you're gonna find something to enjoy here. Something else you're gonna enjoy is the look of this film. This is a gorgeous movie, like in every way. Pretty much every shot in this movie, even when it's like a close-up of someone, is done in an extremely interesting and beautiful way. It's all done with natural lighting as well, and it just looks gorgeous overall. Something else about this film that was really good was the performances. We don't get a whole lot of them, but everybody is given some great performances. Colin Farrell and Jodie Turner-Smith in particular did a fantastic job. And anytime Clifton Collins Jr. shows up in a movie, I'm game. Oh yeah, did I mention Clifton Collins Jr.'s in this movie? And come on, this guy's fucking amazing. He is the baddest motherfucker out there. Anybody else get that reference? Now this movie has a lot of pluses and some minuses. And one of those pluses, depending on who you are bar is the story. And while I did enjoy the story here, especially where it ended up going, speaking of where it goes, I can't help but feel in the end, while I was a bit satisfied, I was wanting a little bit more. Not a lot, and I really can't elaborate on that situation without spoiling it, but just know that in the end, while yeah, I did enjoy it, I just felt like I was missing a little something. Guys, After Yang is an odd little movie, which is to say, After Yang is an A24 movie. It's not gonna be for everybody, and its story is hella slow. But if you stick with that story, it asks some very intriguing questions. There are some fantastic performances going on here, and the movie overall is just gorgeous. I can't really recommend that most people go out and buy or even rent this, but when it's available, it is absolutely worth streaming.
Across the street.
I can't recommend it for everybody for sure, but give it a shot on streaming one night, and who knows, you might love it, or you might hate it. 50-50. So there it is, guys, my review of After Yang. If you enjoyed and want more content like this, hit that subscribe button and help my little channel grow. If you want to help out the channel, check out my Patreon in the description below, become a jarhead and get some of the awesome benefits to go along with it, like these guys, and possibly check out my top tier and become a bad motherfucker like my man Greg C and Dragon Khan. If you liked what I had to say, give me a like. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, stay sexy, Madison.
Come on.
Now, regardless of what you think of the rest of the movie, the opening credits of this film are pretty amazing. They're not indicative of like the tone or really anything with the rest of the film, but just on their own, the opening credits, they're awesome. And the thing that this family is involved in during these opening credits, can we make this a real thing? I mean, really, coming from someone who has a large family himself, I feel like this thing could be an awesome family relationship building activity. I mean, we got a family who puts on matching jumpsuits and dances against other families across the country every night. Yeah, the movie starts with like a nationwide dance-off. How fucking cool would that be? I'm not even a dancer, but the way that they portray it in this movie, I'd totally be down with that shit. Wow, wow, wicka, wicka. Yeah, that's about the range of my abilities, so yeah, if that was a real thing, my family'd lose.